Still buffering. Okay. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to another conversation on Safe Space. Please remember that Safe Space is a conversational panel that is intended to be free of judgment, free of harassment, and free of emotional harm. We ask that you keep an open mind and be receptive to different perspectives. Um, this month um, is February and it's Black History Month. Learning about a lot of the history that's not taught in our schools, that's not taught on a regular basis. And it's also Valentine's Day, the month where we celebrate love. Well, for the next couple of episodes or the next couple of conversations with Safe Space, I wanted to merge those two themes together and basically talk about loving ourselves, Black love, how to persevere through times of struggle. Because with Black history, we are learning about the history that we have created for the world, because it's not just the history of Black people. This is the history of how Black people have impacted the world. And so I think that talking about some of the struggles that we have persevered through on an individual level currently and being able to love ourselves as we are persevering, I think made for good conversations on Safe Space. So um, today, this evening, I have Bianca Chapman, a fellow educator, and we're going to have a conversation about some of the personal struggles that she fought through, and she has definitely earned her stripes. So, Bianca, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Bianca Chapman, and I am currently a social studies teacher, social studies department chair, and avid teacher on my campus. I've been teaching for about, I feel like it's a long time, 6 years. This is my 6th year teaching, but I've been in education like pretty much all my life. I've always known I wanted to be a teacher. I used to set up my stuffed animals to take attendance. And so I'm a mom of 2 handsome Black boys. Their ages 1 and 3. And I am married to an Army veteran who is the love of my life.
Oh, that is wonderful. I love it. I love your story already. Yes, you have two little ones. Oh,
Yeah.
1 and 3.
And the
Yes.
pandemic, baby, is on a whole nother level. Y'all just don't know. Oh my God. He was born during COVID, and oh my Jesus. Whew.
Oh, wow. So you definitely have a full plate, a career,
Mhm,
college,
mhm,
married,
mhm,
children,
mhm.
all of that.
Yep.
How do you balance? How do you balance?
Oh,
How do you find time for Bianca? Because she's somewhere in there between mom and educator and
uh,
wife. Where is Bianca?
I'm not gonna lie. I struggle with that. I'm a
Mhm.
big empath, and man, I love my kids. Like my kids and my husband are my life. They're like my best friends. I really don't have any friends because I always hang out with them. But as far as me, I like to read. Education's been my life for like years, and so I love being with my students the most. That I call them my babies, even though they're not babies;
Mhm.
they're bigger than me. Um, but it's that's hard to say for me to find time for myself because I am always on the go, like
Mhm.
all day. Today I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off, doing stuff for my kids and getting prizes and grading and attendance and all
Mhm.
that stuff. So I'm not gonna lie, I've been trying to work on the work life balance, but one of the things I for sure am working on doing is not bringing my work computer home.
Mhm.
That's been a boundary that I've had to set, and that's harder than it looks.
How do
Um,
you do that? Because I haven't been.
okay, so right now, I didn't do it today because I'm not going to be at work tomorrow. But my husband and I had to make a deal because when I was pregnant, I was in the hospital about to give birth, and I was talking to my students and teaching at the same time. So I really had to work on setting boundaries between, like, when I get home, home is home, work is work. But I'm so in tune with my kids that it's like whenever they need me, I feel like I'm on call 24/7. So I'm still working on finding work-life balance, but we're gonna get there.
We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. So I met you in a Facebook group,
Right.
Black Teachers Rock, and you shared your story.
Mhm.
I was like, oh my gosh, I have to have her on. You've been through a lot.
Yeah.
So if you don't mind giving us a little recap of what you shared, what you opened yourself up to sharing about your education and your life, and just you stayed with it. You did not give up.
Right. Right. So I guess I'll just start from like the very beginning.
Mhm.
I was raised by a single parent. I'm the oldest of three children. And I grew up, kind of rough. I grew up on welfare. I mean, it was rough growing up. I helped take care of my siblings, but I was very like athletic. I played basketball, track, volleyball. Um, I was in like the book club. I was in student government. I did a whole bunch of things. But long story short, I was running track and field in high school, and my heart stopped, and I collapsed, and I slipped into a coma. And when I woke up a couple weeks later, I was speaking three different languages, and none of those languages were English. And so my mom often tells me it looked like an episode of like ER, Grey's Anatomy. I had people coming in and out of my room. I was moved to Children's Hospital by ambulance, and so they had to revive my heart. Like, it was a huge thing. The doctor said I would never. I was paralyzed from the waist down. I'd never be able to walk again, talk again, graduate from high school. I lost all my memory, short term and long term. So they diagnosed me with a traumatic brain injury, which was really rough. I had to be on like it. I called it a leash, like a belt that to help me
Mhm.
walk because I couldn't walk anymore.
Mhm.
I was put in physical therapy. I had to relearn how to speak English, how to brush my teeth, how to just do normal daily activities. I
You
really,
lost almost all of your bodily functions.
yeah.
Wow. And
Mhm.
at what age was this?
I was 16 going. I think I was 16 going on 17. So this is my
Oh,
junior year of high school.
yes.
Yeah, and I wanted to get a scholarship to play basketball. And senior year, they would not clear me to play because of the brain injury. And so at that point, my recruiting went down. My plan to make it out had always been sports. That was my life.
Mhm.
Like, play basketball, get a scholarship, make good grades. This is how you're gonna go to college because my mom couldn't pay $40,000 to me at college, right? So they ended up moving me in with my grandmother because I lived in a big city. So they ended up moving me to a smaller town where my grandparents lived, and my grandmother and I are really close, and she took care of me throughout that course of the year. But with God's strength and perseverance, I graduated high school. I was walking again, and I graduated with 21 scholarships, one of them being a full ride.
Oh, congratulations.
So God, I mean, I give it all to Him, really, and my faith and my family, because I wasn't supposed to make it. They said I shouldn't have even lived. That it's like one in like 200,000 people who have accidents, the same one that I did. So I ended
And
up.
what was the name? I'm sorry, what was the name of the accident that took
So
place?
they diagnosed me with traumatic brain injury and
Okay,
conversion
traumatic brain injury and ruptured.
conversion stress disorder.
Oh,
I
wow.
had a severe concussion, and PTSD were the big things. And so, I have endured trauma in my life, just growing up with being having a single mom, and just trying to battle different things and navigate. And I had to grow up really fast because my mom worked a lot. So I was pretty much the second mom in my household.
Yeah.
Um, and so I've seen a lot, I've dealt with a lot. And my family, from domestic violence to alcoholism, I've dealt with it all in my family. And
Mhm.
so that is kind of what I think, according to the doctors, that's what it kind of stemmed from, is trauma. And trying to overcome trauma, and my body just gave out or just shut down. And I was literally like, I was running track and field, and I was mid race, and I just slowed down and stopped, and I fell backwards and hit my head, and that's where the impact came. Yeah. So,
and you made it through with physical therapy.
Physical therapy. I had kids bullying me, saying I was lying, like I didn't lose my memory. It was
That's a crucial age, your teenage years.
It was a really, 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 really rough patch. And I got something to counter that though later on, because I'm telling you, God works in mysterious ways. I mean,
yes,
you don't know who's watching you or what you're doing, and I'm just blessed that I overcame that, truthfully, because
you remain. I feel it that you're so positive and upbeat, because you could easily throw yourself a pity party, because what you've been through, it definitely deserves one.
Absolutely. But I'm a firm believer in God gives his hardest battles to his strongest soldiers. You know what I'm saying? And so for me, it was just about overcoming and persevering. And life is short. I've seen friends die. I've seen family members die. Like, life is too short. And while you're on this earth physically, you need to live the best life that you can live, truthfully, and find out what your purpose is on this earth and live that out to its fullest testament. So,
that is awesome. That is awesome. So, when fast forward, now you're in college.
Ooh. that was my self-discovery years.
Okay.
So I ended up getting a full ride. One of my scholarships was full ride, and I actually started off at community college because I was so scared. My family was scared too. Like, I had got into PV, I had gotten to University of Miami and all these other colleges. I was like, yeah, I'm leaving. And my mom was like, no. So I ended up going, my scholarship called for me to go to a community college first, which I honestly think is the best thing for me. And it's unfortunate that a lot of people don't push community colleges for students, because, man, debt is real. So the fact that I started off and the classes are smaller, they're a little bit easier. I got to know my professors a lot. So I got to college, did my first 2 years, and then I transferred to A&M and did my second 2 years. And I worked 4 jobs throughout college. I was vice president of student government. I was president of Student United Way. I did a lot of stuff. I'm not gonna lie. I was always busy. I was never at home. And I learned a lot while being in college. And then I got to my junior year, and I always knew I wanted to become a teacher, but my counselor, the advisor, actually put me in the wrong class. So I ended up having to, because he thought that my scores were incorrect on my, I think it was tax test at the time. He said my scores were incorrect, but turns out they mixed my scores up with someone else. So I ended up taking more classes than I needed, but that caused me to get 3 associate degrees instead of 1.
Okay.
So I ended up getting 3 associate degrees, and then I graduated with my bachelor's. Now, while you're doing that, you're supposed to take your certification test. I failed my certification test like 3 or 4 times.
Now, when you say certification test, what certification test are you talking about?
Social studies composite specifically, 7 through 12. And I failed that test 4 times. And I was like, that's when I was like, maybe I'm just not meant to do this. Like, maybe I'm not meant to be a teacher. Maybe, like, I need to find something else to do. And maybe I should go to law school like I was planning, or maybe I'm just not meant to do this. And it was hard each and every time, because I tried to study. I tried to figure out a new way, a new path. But I learned in those down times that timing is everything, and it's not on your timing, it's on his timing. So for me, I had to wait my turn. So I ended up passing probably senior year. I passed, and then I graduated, and then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go to grad school. And so when I graduated with my bachelor's, I sent my bachelor's degree to the doctors for my accident and showed them, look, I did make it. Y'all said I wasn't going to make it, that I wasn't going to live, that I wasn't going to ever walk again. And I sent them a video of me walking across the stage for graduation.
Awesome.
My mom was like, oh, you shouldn't do that. But I was like, no, I need to.
Oh, no. They do not have the final. Clearly, they did not have the final say.
Not at all.
You understood the assignment.
Absolutely. Every single. And I they were telling me that I should have in college, I should have went to disability services and done all these things. But I don't know. For me, I just didn't want to be treated differently. I didn't want nobody to judge me. I didn't want to be treated as if I was a charity case or like I needed help. I wanted to really get it on my own. And because I was smart and I was intelligent and I was a hard worker, not because you pity me because I've had this accident. So it's not a lot of times where I spoke about my accident. My professors never knew. I didn't tell a lot of my friends when I went to college and met new people. Nobody knew. The only people that really knew were like my family. And so I graduated, went to get my master's, and then I ended up taking another certification test, failed that one.
Okay, now which certification test are we talking about?
Okay, so I took the SPED test, failed that one.
Okay, and that's to become a special education teacher.
So I had already, by this time I passed.
The reason these questions are for some of my viewers who are not educators.
You're good. So I literally ended up taking social studies. I had passed that after I failed it like 4 times. And then I took the PPR, which is the Professional Pedagogies and Responsibilities test. Just basically like, that's the easy one. So I ended up passing that one. And then I was like, I'm going to go to grad school right out of college. So I did it. I was like, I'm going to go to grad school. I worked my 4 jobs while in grad school, while helping raise my cousin's daughter, while helping my grandparents out, while helping my mom out, paying their bills.
A lot of responsibility. It's a lot of responsibility on your shoulders.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's kind of why I am the way that I am with stress, because I have to constantly be doing something. And I think that stems from the accident itself. I have to be doing something. I can't be idle. And so I ended up going to get my master's. And when I graduated my master's, I did the same thing. I sent it right to him. My mom was like, oh, you did that. So then I was
are going to understand how I was not limited by your expectations. No.
At all. And it's
low expectations.
Nobody has the final say so for your life except you. And so if you think it and you can manifest it and you write it down, you can believe it, speak it, you will achieve it, period. And so for me, after graduate school, I went and I was like, I had already known I wanted to become an assistant principal. I just was like, what should I do? So I graduated, got married. And then I ended up like 9 months into our marriage. I ended up becoming pregnant with our first child. And that just so coincided with me joining the principal certification program. So I was pregnant and in school and teaching full time and a new wife.
And there goes all those responsibilities you're piling on yourself.
And again, yes. And so I would be at doctor's appointments, they'd be checking me and I'd be like, I got to do an assignment real quick. And I'm just typing on I bring my computer with me everywhere. So as time went on, my first son was born in 2018 and then we had him. And then about a year and a half later, COVID happened. And then I found out I was pregnant again with our second son. Which was rough because I had passed the principal certification program, but I failed the principal test 3 times. I took the principal test twice while pregnant and once while not pregnant because I was like, I'm not going to give up. I'm just going to keep going. My husband's like, love, you got this. You got this. You got this. And I'm like, nah, I don't know. And then I thought that thing again. Like,
you have a great support system.
Yeah, I do. Honestly, my husband is my best friend, literally. And at times, I know I'm stubborn and bullheaded and I'm like, whatever. But he has taught me and made me into a better woman every single day. And he's literally the yin to my yang. Like literally, he's the complete opposite of me. He's way more laid back, way more reserved, way more chill. And he's nicer than me.
That's so sweet. I love it.
He is everything. Oh my God, that man is amazing. So I gave birth to my first child. And then during COVID, I got pregnant with my second child.
That seems like a traumatic experience being pregnant through the pandemic.
Well, not only that, but the riots had happened on the Capitol. George Floyd was killed. And I actually went to a protest with my older son. And I was pregnant, full belly. I was like 7 months pregnant, full belly. And I went and they took a picture of me. And I didn't even know they were taking pictures for the newspaper, but I was literally in tears. Because when I found out that I was having another son, reality sunk in for me that I'm the mother of Black boys. And my reality might be different than what other people's reality looks like if their sons don't look like my sons. And reality tells me, and even as a teacher, I know this, reality tells me that there are going to be people in the world who don't like my sons just because of what they look like. It has nothing to do with the hoodie. It has nothing to do with the way they walk, the way they talk. They're just not going to like my sons because of
They're going to be demonized just because they're alive. And that for me was the main reason why I went. And it was a silent protest, but the tension was so profound that it sank in to me. And that was probably the roughest pregnancy that I've ever had to endure. Between COVID and protests and riots, it was really, really tough. And then looking at my Black students every day, them asking me questions like, Miss, why will this happen to us? And in my mind, I'm like, I don't ever want my sons to become a hashtag. That's a fear that the phone will ring and my husband won't come home or my sons won't come home, and I don't ever want to feel that pain. And that fear is real.
Very much so. And I don't think people understand how real it is, because there have been people that have complied. There have been people that have been complicit that follow the rules every day and still did not make it. And so that's my reality every single day as a mom. And that is one of the biggest fears I have of being a mom of Black sons. And I want to teach my boys to be strong and respect others. But I also need them to understand that not everybody in this world is going to love you.
You have
And
to teach them how to live in this society.
that's hard for me. That's hard because I'm one of the people. I love everybody. I mean, I don't care. I don't care if you look like the Simpsons, the Boondocks. I mean, I do not care. I mean, everybody, you are who you are. Who am I to judge you? I feel like only God can judge people. So as a mom and as a teacher and seeing some of even my Black students, like especially like the Black boys, seeing them, I have a soft spot for them, especially because I have sons and I treat them all like my children, literally. I don't care what you look like, but especially my Black boys, it's hard for me a lot of the times because I pull your hood down, take your hood off because I think of Trayvon Martin, or don't have this in your hand. Don't be playing with these little play toy guns because I think of Amir Wright. Like it's just so many things start.
I want to protect you at every angle.
At every angle, and that's a horrible fear to have. That really is. It's a horrible fear to have, and unfortunately, and that's not everybody. I mean, again, like not all people are bad. Not all Black people are one way. Not all police officers are one way. Not all principals are one way. Everybody's different, but statistics show, the media shows, data shows that some people are this way. History shows some people are this way, right? And so that's a big fear.
And it's not always in our favor.
It's not. And the system, and I was watching Fresh Prince, believe it or not, with Will Smith. And they said something about the system is not designed for us to make it. The system is designed for us to fail. And I've researched the school to prison pipeline before, and that's alarming because it's like how do you dismantle a system that's been in place for over hundreds of years?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So as a teacher, those are things I think about, especially for my minority babies, Hispanic and Black, and like, how can we change the system? Because that's the root. You need to change the system.
Right. So we see why you are the social studies chair.
Oh, yes. I am dear to my heart. And I love history. I feel like Black history is history. I think a lot of people don't.
It is. It's
realize
world
that.
history.
Like, it's history, period. Right. And so, man, history teachers walk a fine line, though. I'm not going to lie. We walk a fine line between what we can do and what we shouldn't do, and what we can say and what we shouldn't say, what we can teach and what we can't teach. But I do teach my students the truth. I do teach my students to know their rights. The Bill of Rights is so important. And that's important. They need to know. I mean, I told them if there's nothing else you leave from my classroom knowing, know the Bill of Rights 1 through 10.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, because at the beginning of the year with my students, I make sure that we go through the student code of conduct because I teach in Chicago Public School, and everyone receives their booklet and they're like, this is for parents. It's like, no, it's for you.
Yes.
This is so that you can advocate for yourself.
Yep.
You
Absolutely.
can know the rules so that you don't break them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I'm giving you the knowledge so that then you will have it. And it's
Absolutely.
so important for us to know the laws, and
Absolutely.
especially with the students at such a young age. But then it turned around on me, Miss Munoz, you can't do this. I'm allowed to do this, that, or the other because it's in the student handbook.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And they'll listen. They'll hold you accountable.
fine,
Listen, tell me.
fine. Go ahead. Thank you. Okay. Thank you for
Absolutely.
advocating for yourself. But
Absolutely.
I love it. I love that they challenged me,
Yeah.
and they brought me back the paperwork to show, no, you said we couldn't do this, but in the handbook, we are allowed.
Mhm.
I didn't say anything else. I
That's
just,
like, I mean, that future lawyers, if you ask me.
yes, that's what, and with my students, I have students who love to argue their point, and I, have this saying that one day you're going to be a great litigator, but for now you're
Absolutely.
in my courtroom.
I
Going, you're going to be in contempt. So this is
love
how,
that.
and I try to turn the negative into a positive,
Yeah.
because I have some students who love to talk. You're going to be a great orator,
Yes.
but right
Yep.
now I need you to silence.
Yes.
So then they're like, what is or? So you're going to do a 1 paragraph essay
What else?
researching orator. So, and then come back. Oh, Miss Williams, this is an actual job I can do. Yes. And I'm like,
Yes.
okay, so let's get back to
Exactly. And a lot of people don't. I think that's the problem with some adults is they try to silence this generation. These kids have a lot to say. I mean, I
they
couldn't,
have a lot
I
to
could
say.
not ever have been. I mean, and I'm 28. I could not have ever been a student in the pandemic. There's just no way. Teaching the pandemic was rough enough. So just
Yes.
learning through a pandemic, I'm like, how did y'all do that? Because listen, no, not me. Like these kids have a lot to say, and a lot of the stuff is valuable, and they're intelligent and they're
Yes.
smart and they're
They
wise.
have their own perspective, and that's why I like to teach them also to advocate, because they like to speak up. So I'm like,
Yes,
you're going to do it in a way that's respectful and the way that you can get your point across.
exactly. Exactly.
This is what advocating is, because it's easy to get upset and want to cuss out teachers, and, well, this teacher said, no, you got to
Yep,
advocate for yourself. This
absolutely.
is what you are going to say. This is how you're going to say it.
Yep, that's
Okay.
exactly it.
And listen to what the other person has
Said.
to say.
Amen. Amen. That's
So
right.
that is definitely. So you're taking your principal or assistant principal.
Principal. So I took my principal exam recently. So in Texas, it's 2 parts. You have to
Okay.
take the multiple choice / essay test first,
Okay.
uh, which was expensive, and then you have to take the PASL second, and that's like this big project that you have to turn in. And so I found out I passed the 268 right before I went on my anniversary trip in June.
Now, with the principal certification, did you have to go through some type of preparatory program?
Yes, I went through a program first and I passed that program while I was pregnant. But while I was in the program, I took the test 3 times and I failed it. But that was the old test. So in
Oh,
Texas, they redid the test and made it into 2 big parts instead of just
oh,
one.
wow.
So I felt the
Now, with this
first.
program, did you earn a master's degree, or it's just certification to prepare you
No,
for?
so I had already had my master's for about a
Okay.
year. And then I was like, I'm just going to do the principal cert program. And then I ended up, I got pregnant. And so I was like, I'm just going to do it anyway. Because I mean, I just put stuff on my plate. So I'm just going to do
Why
it.
not? Yeah.
So I ended up doing it and then gave birth to my son, my first child. And then I was like, okay, I failed the test 3 times. And I'm like, okay, I'm done. I just don't want to do it anymore. I literally had given up at that point. I'm like, this maybe just being a principal is not for me. And so I ended up it was my husband and my mom again, who I feel like are like mother and son because they're really close. Like my mom treats him like he's her son. And sometimes they gang up on me on the low and I don't be doing it. But they were the ones who were like, you can do this. You need to do it again. So I ended up taking it again right before my anniversary trip. And then I passed the first one. And I was like, okay, like this is motivation. This is what I needed. I can do this PASL. So I did the PASL, started in August. And then midway through it, I'm like, bro, I can't do this. Like, on God. I was telling my students, I was so frustrated. I said, on God, Miss Chapman can't do this, y'all. And it was my students who were like, yes, you can, because you're going to be principal of our school, miss, and you're going to do this, and you're going to do that, and you have to do this. You have to do this. You're our shero. And so my kids were the second motivators that were like, Miss Chapman, and they would give me time. They would make these kids, they made me go to tutorials. They would have, and I call them my breakfast club. And it's just like a big group of my kids. And it got to the point where it got to be too many of them, but I just welcomed them all in my room anyway. I had kids sitting on the floor, I had kids sitting on couches, I had kids everywhere. And it got to the point where it turned into tutorials for me. They're like, Miss Chapman, now one thing you told us is to be on time. So make sure you're on time for tutorials. They wrote me a pass. They made me a binder. They had all my study materials. And they were proofreading my work. Like, I'm talking about these kids, like, turned into the teacher and I was a student. And they set deadlines for me. My kids made a spreadsheet that set deadlines for me. And
that is an awesome support system.
Listen, and I've always said that once you become my student, and they're all mine, but once you become my student, oh, you are my baby for life. I don't care how old you get. And so, right the day before New Year's Eve last year, I ended up getting the results, and I was so scared to open it. I was like shaking. And then I saw pass. Once I saw pass, I dropped on the floor in my kitchen, and I was just in tears. I was in tears.
I'm sure.
Because it's been a long time coming, and I've worked so hard to prove myself. I've had to grow up a lot. I used to be really immature, and I one thing I struggled with as a Black woman in the professional world was professionalism, because I come from, I guess, quote unquote, the projects or the hood or whatever you want to call it, right? Mm-hmm. And so I had to learn how to speak to people. I had to learn conflict resolution. I had to learn. I really felt like one of my students, honestly. I've had to grow up and mature and realize there's a time and a place to do things, time and a place to say things. There's a way that you need to act in the professional world, how to send emails, how to speak correctly. I mean, I really had to fine tune everything. I was good at everything else, but the professionalism was the biggest one for me, because culturally, I don't work with everybody that looks like me. Right. And so I would say words like speak Ebonics, and people will look at me like I'm crazy. But that's how I also talk to my students sometimes, because I know that they understand me. Well, with your colleagues, you can't do that.
Correct.
And so I had to really, like, I call it my Michelle Obama voice, like turn on my Michelle Obama voice, and really, really fine tune myself into a professional. So the day before New Year's Eve, I found out I passed, screaming, crying. It was a really great day. I still remember it to this day. And then I called my principal and I told her, like, you got one more year with me. After next school year, I'm gonna go ahead and apply for it to be an AP.
Did you send the certifications to the doctors?
I did, actually. I know I sent it to them, but I sent it to a teacher from 3rd grade, and I don't know why. I remembered all the bad stuff that happened in my life prior to my accident, but none of the good stuff. And one person I remember was my 3rd grade teacher. And I moved a lot. We were homeless at some points. I really went through a tough childhood. And my mom did the best she could, and I love her for it. And all those struggles, truthfully, have made me the woman I am. But I had a 3rd grade teacher who told me I would never amount to anything besides laying on my back. And that stuck with me. And I think that was my intrinsic motivation almost to prove her wrong. And I was in 3rd grade when 9/11 happened. Aaliyah died, which was my favorite singer of all time. 9/11 happened. My brother was born that same year of 9/11. So it was a pretty traumatic year for me. And so I remembered that, and I held on to that. And when I graduated with my master's degree, I sent it to her. Yeah, I sent it to her. Good. Yeah. So life comes too far.
Yes. So going through that, what was going through your mind the first time you opened the letter and it said fail? The second time you opened the letter and it said fail. By all rights, you should have been like, you know what? You're right. I'm done. I'm giving up.
Defeat. Failure were probably the biggest two words that I could use to describe that moment.
Defeat and failure. Yeah.
Defeat and failure, and feeling like I failed my family, feeling like I failed myself. I feel like I failed God. I feel like I failed all the people that ever believed in me. I feel like I failed the scholarship committees that, pay for me to go to school. I just feel like I failed. And that was the hardest thing for me because I am a very ambitious person. And
Failure is a heavy weight, Bianca.
oh my God. But in those failures come the biggest lessons. And those failures taught me that I'm stronger than what I thought I was. And in those failures, I learned how much I could take and how far I could go. And so failing, delayed doesn't mean denied. That's the biggest part that I learned. I was delayed. It probably just wasn't my time right then. And I look back on it now that I just said that, and I thought the timing wasn't right at that time because I was going through a lot with my family and work and school. The timing, I wasn't ready, and I still needed to mature a lot. The timing was not right. That's the first time I ever thought about that. The timing wasn't right then. And so it doesn't happen on your time. It happens on his timing. And so, man, it was rough. I'm not gonna lie. It was. I almost quit. I almost quit school. I was like, because I saw all my other classmates passing, and here I am, still not passed yet.
Now, did you think like, what were you doing wrong? How did you go about preparing yourself mentally for the test when you're going in to take it again? Did you say like, you know what, I need to study an extra hour every day, or I need to, like, what strategies did you implement to adjust yourself?
So I actually started figuring out the patterns between each test versus when I passed versus when I failed. And I noticed when I failed, I would study the night before the test. I would study the night before the test. I'd stay up late and then get to the testing center early next morning.
Draw a complete blank.
And I already have test anxiety as it is. That's why I feel for my students, because I'm like, I feel so bad. Like my test anxiety is out the roof. And so I would study the night before the test. I would study for extra hours every day after I got done with school and work. And I just realized that I need to chill. Like, I need to relax. It's either I know it or I don't. And I'm psyching myself out. Like, sometimes your biggest enemy is yourself. And so the night before
the time.
Yeah, sometimes your biggest enemy is you. You are the common denominator. Sometimes you are the problem. And I realized I was the problem. And so, and then the other 3 times I had gotten a tutor, and like, I didn't even really need a tutor. I got a tutor because in my mind I had failed. So I need to find another way to fix it. But sometimes a problem that in the solution is already in front of you. You just have to be willing to see it. And so that's when I realized I didn't need a tutor. So when I passed each time, I didn't have a tutor. I didn't study the night before. All I did was study the manuals that were provided by the company that was giving the test. And I passed each time that same way.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Because we have so many, I know I have individuals that, your teacher, that test, I can't get past the test. I failed it. Yeah. I gave up. I was like, no, go. If you have to, go to City College and take a math course or take a writing course. And then, because they've changed the test, the teacher doesn't even know what the test is called.
Yes, they've changed.
It's a test to take to get into the teacher program. And I was like, that's all you do, because they're, I don't remember math anymore. Just go to City College, take a math course, take a writing course, and then go and take the test. That's what I did. I was a few years out of college. I didn't remember all of, the math, the any of that. I had to take the math class.
The
writing class, because I wasn't writing anything. So when you don't use it, you will lose it.
Yeah, it becomes obsolete. Absolutely.
Yeah. And
that's why I encourage people to try to, like, if you're gonna go get your master's, stay in
continuing education is
keep going, because if you stay, and I already knew, that's why I was like, I'm just gonna go get my master's now, because if I stopped, I was not going
Yes.
back at all.
Yes.
So I
And
try to
that's
keep-
happens with a lot of students with high school, and they're like, I'm tired of school. I don't, and I'm like, just go for just
Yes.
go. And I understand the frustration because our education system is set up
Yeah.
in a way where it's factory and so traditional and outdated models, but it's like if you just go a few more years,
Yeah.
you'll be okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So I definitely understand that part because the knowledge, it is so important. But if you don't take a grasp of it, you're going
Yeah.
to lose it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Definitely. And so now, what is your role at your school?
So I am the social studies department chair.
Okay.
I am also I teach 7th and 8th grade Avid, and I teach 8th grade U.S. history. I wear a lot of different hats, I
Mhm.
would
So,
say.
what does a department chair look like in middle school?
So I'm pretty much like the liaison between administration, and I
Okay.
have a department of about 9 people. So it's 10, including myself. So I'm pretty much in charge of all of social studies on my campus.
Okay.
Um, and so I conduct meetings and emails. I'm the liaison. I look at data. I do observations. I'm
The
pretty much
cluster,
like
you handle cluster meetings.
cluster meetings. Like I'm pretty much like second in line, like behind the administrators in a
Okay.
sense.
Okay.
And they kind of delegate a lot of different tasks for us, which has helped me. It's helping me get into the role of an administrator,
Okay.
which has been very helpful. And I literally could not ask for better people to work with. I literally have the best department ever, I feel like. And so it's been a role that I was scared to take at first because I doubt myself. I'm very hard on myself. If I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it right, and I'm gonna do it full throttle, 100%. And so I was the youngest department chair. I still am the youngest department
And
chair.
there you go again, taking on all those responsibilities, leadership, and you're still in the classroom. Now that's a lot, Bianca. That
Yes,
is a lot.
it was so much that my family was like, "Are you sure?" And I was like, "Yes, I am." And I mean, I've been department chair. I passed my principal test, and so I just feel like as soon as I conquer something, I'm like, "Oh, I can do more. Oh, I can do this." And I'm not Superwoman by any means, um, but I pride myself in making things happen and getting things done. And my biggest thing is always doing what's best for kids. Period. So if
Yes.
that's what I gotta do, I'm gonna do it.
Yes, that's so important. And we need more educators that are interested in educating kids as opposed to teaching lessons.
Yes. And honestly, like, because I felt my content test, I knew that I'm a teacher. I'm not a professor. And see, I think that's the difference between teaching and professors. Like, professors know the content through and through. Like, that's their thing. They're there to just lecture and move about their day. I am a teacher in every sense of the word. I oftentimes tell my kids, like, my biggest job is to make sure you're successful, not just in my classroom, but in life. And if I don't do
Yes,
that, I'm not doing my job. And
yes.
so I am gonna be all up in your business. I sure am. I'm gonna make sure you're doing what you're supposed to do in the hallways. I'm gonna make sure you're passing. I check all of their classes, not just mine. I check all their grades in their classes. And if you need to be in tutorials, oh, I'm going to find you. I don't care if you're in the cafeteria. I don't care if you was in practice. I'm gonna pull you out. I'm gonna take you to tutorials so you can pass your classes. Because
And it's so important because
yes,
I teach fifth grade, and my students that have moved on, that are in high school, they come back, they show me their report cards. Students that are now down the hall in middle school in 7th and 8th grade, they're knocking on my door. Miss M, look at my grades, look at my math grade, look at my math
yeah,
grade.
yeah.
And that does so much. That does my heart so much.
I'm telling you.
It
I'm
really
telling you. And
does.
I tell the kid literally, no one thing nobody can take from you is the education. And I support them in whatever they want to do. I got one kid when he want to be a rapper. That's great. But I want you to have something to fall back on.
Mhm.
Have some type of backup plan because like me, I didn't have backup plan. I was like, I'm going to college to play basketball. That is it. But life happened for me.
Mhm.
And because life happened, I had to figure out, okay, what am I going to do now with my life? Because I didn't know. And so it took my favorite teacher of all time. He's actually a guy. He was my senior English teacher. Literally the best man. Literally like my dad. To just tell me that you have to have a backup plan, and in education is something that's important. You need to have one. And he is my favorite teacher still. And I ended up teaching his daughter my first year teaching. And so life just kind of came full circle. I learned a lot from him, and he really has made me into the teacher that I am every single day. He treated me like I was human. He didn't treat me like I was a kid. Like, you're human, you make mistakes, but if you continue to make the same mistake, it's a choice at that point. So learn from the mistake and move on. And so the same way he was with me and my classmates, I'm the exact same way with my kids. I love them unconditionally, but I'm not going to hold your hand, and I'm not going to sugarcoat nothing. I'm going to give you the real. And I think that's why I do so well. I build great relationships.
And they appreciate that. And that is so important. With my students, I have affirmations for them, and they have to talk and choose an affirmation, and then not only provide and discuss the affirmation, but they also have to share with us why they chose that particular affirmation. And then after that, and this is a part of my social emotional learning. So like the first 10, 15 minutes of class, this is all we're doing. We are not touching academics. And then we listen to, on a regular basis, Dr. Eric Thomas. And they absolutely love him. And he brings it real and raw, and he is so authentic. Yes. And for them to have this Black man telling them life is difficult, but you got to fight through it. And, he lets know he was homeless. He was eating out of garbage cans. He fought through. And then I tell them, okay, in this particular motivational speech, what spoke to you? And so then they have to say, oh, this is what he said. He said he was homeless, or he said he ate out of garbage cans. Why did that speak to you? What happened that really stuck in your head? And then they'd have to share. And so now I feel that I'm creating a culture in my classroom where I have Black kids talking about their emotions, talking about their feelings with each other, and we are supporting each other.
And not being judgmental.
No, and not. And now at the first week of school, they're like, I'm not doing this. But now, you have students, I'm piggybacking off of what this student said, and that happened to me, and we live here, and so it's a community now. And I'm hoping that they can take it back with them back on the block.
Absolutely.
In the classroom.
We must be kindred sisters, because I have affirmations as desk numbers in my classroom. And so when I call them name every day, they read the affirmation that they chose on their desk. So we must be like connected.
That's
here.
Something to put on their desk just to look at. Because
they say
I have students, when they're having you have a student that come in and they're having a difficult day. It's just difficult. I'll pass them an affirmation card, and I'll tell them, I was like, go to the bathroom and just read it to yourself. It doesn't stop. They should be in therapy. They should be, but they're not, for whatever reason. And so I will give them affirmation card, and I was like, go to the bathroom, put some water on your face, because they just came into school. No toothbrush, they got up again. And I'm appreciating that you wanted to see me enough that you just got up and came to school, because no one was making them come to school. And they got up and came to school. Take this card and just go read it to yourself in the mirror a couple times and come back. Now, does it eliminate what happened or what's going on? But it does make them feel a little bit better. And then, I was like, go sit in the reflection corner and, just get yourself together. You'll jump in when you're ready. And then 10, 15 minutes, they're participating, they're engaged. And that's what they need, that support. Because if they come in and they're on 10, I'm on 10, that's going to be a complete zero.
No, it doesn't work.
It's not. It is not going to work.
Nope.
Not at all. And so they need someone to speak life. And I also want them to be in the habit of speaking life into themselves also.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And when they do that, what I found with my kids is it spreads. And
Mhm.
sometimes their parents need that light, because I used to see my mom really truly go through it, but she always tried, and I have to commend her for this. She always tried to hold it together in front of us. But I knew that she would cry at night. I knew
Because
that
life is happening, Bianca. Life
life was
is
happening.
happening.
Absolutely. But I knew it. As the oldest, I knew, and
You
I've
felt
seen her
it.
go through a lot. I've seen things happen, and I mean, there's been times like one year we were in line in the welfare line trying to get. She was trying to just get us one Christmas toy. She couldn't afford a Christmas that year, and I remember I had to go to the bathroom so bad. I thought I was gonna pass out. The line was long, wrapped around the building twice, and they were giving out free toys, and she just wanted to get us one toy, and she had not eaten all day, and she found crackers in her purse, and she gave each of us one. Hadn't eaten all day. She was about to pass out. I was about to pass out. But I've seen her go through so much to the point where I'm like, and I know the same as with my students. They see their parents going through stuff. They don't want to be a burden. But when you do things like that, social emotional learning, words of affirmation, and you speak life into them, that light illuminates others, and that light shines bright on somebody else, and that can spread joy to somebody else. And I have a lot of parents. I have a really good relationship with my parents. Thank you, Jesus.
Mhm.
I know there's some teachers that don't, but I call all my parents at the beginning of the year, and I call
Mhm.
my parents all the time, and it's not always for academic things. I call my parents for good things. I make a lot of really, really good phone calls. Oh, so and so went up on their scores today, or so and so helped out a student today, or so and so.
That's so important. So
Very, because I promise you, Ms. Munoz, when I will have parents answer the phone, and the first thing they say is, "What did my child do now?" And I said, wait, like, so I always start the conversation with off because I see the phone call, the school calling. This is not a bad phone call. And I just hear them have a sigh of relief, like, thank you. Like, and sometimes they need that. Some of these kids need that. And I am the teacher where some people will be like, why does he act that way in your class, but he don't act that way in mine?
Mhm, mhm.
And I get that a lot.
I have that experience also.
But and a lot of people ask me, well, how do you do it? And I'm like, I build relationships with them. Like
Yes,
that's the
relationship
only
building with students is crucial,
that's the only it's no
and
it's no
maintaining those relationships.
that's it. It's no there's like no book that taught me that. There's no website, no speaker. I mean, okay, Rita Pearson. But there's nothing
Yes,
else that
yes.
taught me to do that. I really just think about how would I want to be a student in my own classroom, one, and two, how did my worst teachers treat me, and how did my best teachers treat me, and how
When
do I
I first heard Rita Pearson, this is my beginning years of teaching, and I was like, student don't have to like me. He better or she better come in here and do her
right,
work
right.
to like somebody. You don't have the privilege of liking who's in front of you.
Yeah.
But as I became a more seasoned educator, first thing I do not teach academics. I say maybe the first 2 weeks of school.
Oh no, absolutely not.
I get to know my students. We are having conversations.
Yep,
That's the only
absolutely.
thing that's taking place. We are having conversations because they don't, my students are already in this fight mode.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're in protect mode and fight mode. You're not going to be able to teach anything when they're like that. And they have to get to know you. And this is the culture that they're coming from.
Yeah.
And you can't break the ice, you just have to let it melt.
Big facts. That's very
And it makes for a better student.
and literally, and I mean, I know things about my kids that aren't academic,
Mhm.
that have nothing to do with school.
And I
I
let them
mean,
know, don't tell nobody else this.
yes,
Please don't tell nobody
yes.
else
Oh
this.
my God, because they will, but that's one of the things my student. But I always tell them, if you tell me something, I love that you trust me, but understand if it's harming you, you're harming someone else,
Mhm.
or somebody's harming you, I have to report it. I am a
Yeah,
mandatory
I put
reporter.
that out there, and some of the stuff that they tell me it's not harming them, but I let them know. Don't tell nobody else.
Because listen, I do not want to get in
Keep
trouble.
your mom's
I'm like,
business.
I need to report to the counselor or something. Do not be weary. So, but I know a lot of things about them, and I think it's because I keep in contact with them. I am that teacher. I will follow you, and I will make sure you go to high school. I will make sure that I ensure that I'm at graduation. I'm gonna keep my word. I'm gonna check on you. And I actually just did it with my seniors that are about to graduate. And some of them were so surprised. You really said you were going to keep in contact, and you really did. And that broke my heart. Although I'm grateful, broke my heart because that means people don't keep their promises to them.
Yes.
People don't keep their word to them. And see, I really want to be that person that does that, that keeps my word.
Because the adults in their life, the only consistency they have is inconsistency.
Correct.
That's the only thing that they can rely on, that person is not going to do what they said they were going to do.
Exactly. That's correct. And so I think that's why I get the praise that I get, and a lot of people, and I just be like, when people just praise me, I'll be like, I'll just be chilling. But because I don't see what's inspiring about my story, because to me, it's just my story. It's what I've lived through.
No, it is inspiring. The fact that, some people, if you have never taken an entrance exam, a certification test, you won't necessarily understand this.
Right.
When your livelihood, when your job depends on this test, you take the test, you fail the certification.
Yeah.
And in our field, in our careers, if you don't pass the test, you're not getting the job. It's not, oh, well, I know someone that knows. No. Yeah. If you don't pass the test, you're not getting the job. That's it.
Not at all.
You cannot pass go without having to pass that certification. And for you to have said, you know what, I'm not going to give up. I'm go at it again. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to go at it again. That says a lot. That definitely means a lot to individuals who just want to throw in the towel.
Yeah.
And just give up, because with everything that's going on, that's another stressor that you don't want to go through.
Right.
Failure is hurtful.
Yeah, absolutely.
It really is. And so hearing someone like you that dug deep and said, you know what, I can quit. I can quit, but I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not. That is an inspiring story to hear, especially in these times, because, we read about Dr. King, and which he had an easy academic life. He was a genius.
Right.
I don't care what no one said. Dr. King was a genius.
He was.
They were geniuses.
Smart. Yeah, very smart.
Yeah, they're just during Jim Crow time. They were geniuses. Yeah. Them brothers were geniuses.
Absolutely.
And to regular people, where I have to read and study to learn this. Yeah. I have my oldest son. He can read a book and have it memorized, can explain it and understand it the first time. I got to read a couple times.
I need to take notes.
I got to take notes. I got to, annotation.
Yeah, I can't do that.
I got to look I got to go Google a couple
things. A couple things, do a couple words, looking at a couple times.
And I feel that I'm an average learner. The person that can read and catch it, that's not an average learner.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a lot of these tests put you in a situation they intimidate you.
Yeah.
They are really intimidating. And the fact that you overcame it is a testament to your spirit. And I definitely appreciate you sharing your story. And I know that it is going to inspire others to persevere. And your story is exactly what I wanted for SafeSpace during Black History Month. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing this story and persevering and self love. And even though you like put a lot of stress on yourself,
I
Bianca, we got to work on that, Bianca.
I do. Well, that's why I took a mental day tomorrow because I was like, I'm gonna spend time with my
Go
husband.
and enjoy yourself.
I'm
Go get
going
a
to the spa,
massage or
so
something.
I am going
Yes,
to
yes. That's
zen.
that's love. That's self-care. And definitely thank you for joining me on Safe Space. And I'm definitely going to have you back again because I
Absolutely.
want you to talk about your leadership role
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
talking about making that transition. Even
Right.
though I think you straddling the fence, Bianca, because you're still in the classroom
It's
and
so
you're a
hard to
teacher
leave.
leader.
Oh my God, it's so hard. I just, I struggle with it. I'm like, and
Mm,
my kids have always, well, you can follow us to high school, miss. And I'm like, oh, I don't know what to do.
yes. And
I
that is a struggle, having the experience and then supporting other teachers who need your leadership, but then you also having your personal aspirations because I enjoy the classroom. I
Yes.
enjoy the classrooms, but then like myself as a tenure teacher, I have so much to share with
Mhm.
new teachers, but it's like, I like the
Yeah. I love
classroom.
the
There's
classroom.
something about this classroom and interacting with the student. It's
Yeah.
stressful. Now they can push your
Yes.
buttons, but
Yes.
it's something about the students, just, having them, just having to
That's true.
see them. It
That's true.
is. But I'm definitely going to be inviting you back to Safe Space, Bianca. And I definitely thank you for sharing your story. You are definitely an inspiration. And the fact that everything that you went through, your light hasn't dimmed, your faith hasn't wavered. And the fact that you are still giving him the glory, that
Always.
says a lot. That
Always.
definitely says a lot because
Well,
we like to get attitude with God
yeah, we do.
for stuff we do.
Yes. And you gotta take
I know
accountability
I
for
get
yourself.
attitude
Yeah.
knowing I wasn't supposed to do something, but I'm getting
No, you wasn't
attitude
supposed
with
to do it,
him.
so that be me, boy. But you gotta praise him in the good and the bad. The good,
You
bad, and ugly. You
definitely
can't just
do.
praise him or call on
Praise
him
him
when you
through the
really going through
storm.
it. Yeah,
Yes.
praise him through the storm. Praise him through
Yes.
the storm.
Well, thank you so much,
Thank you for
Bianca.
having me.
And to my viewers, thank you for joining me on another conversation of Safe Space. And as always, take a moment and shine your light in the dark. Thank you.